Ohio
thank you so
State
much
grad
for
uses her
giving us
public
that, bridging the
speaking
gap
and technical
between
skills to
coding
educate
and
businesses and
storytelling. I
individuals
hope
about how
those
blockchain
creatives
technology
definitely
will
got
help
something
foster
from this. As a
an
creative, I
era of
definitely learned a
equity
lot
and trust for
about
all.
tech
Let's
through
please
seeing
show
that.
some love
But
for Mariah Howard.
what we're going to learn about right now, for those that are
Hi,
looking to get into product, for
everyone.
those that
I
are
am so glad to
already
be
in
here.
product,
Can you hear me?
or those that
Yeah,
sound
you're
more.
good.
This
When you
background.
have a product, right?
I have just
a
been in
product idea.
awe, and being with you all this
What's
morning has been so refreshing. I am literally honored to be here. AO, the whole entire Techsgiving team, you guys are doing an incredible job, and this is literally just the beginning. So I'm so proud of you. I guess I'm going to get started. So we are talking about blockchain. And I want to just preface the conversation to let you all know that, first of all, you're not too late. There's nothing that you don't know, right, that you can't apply and use in this new industry. And that, what is another myth? And that this space is for you. This space is absolutely supposed to be for our Black and brown inventors and our people to take advantage of. So don't believe the hype. That's what I want to start with. I want to start with don't believe the hype. Please know, trust, believe, and understand that this space is genuinely for you and meant to be for you. And that's why I am here to share the information. Okay. So to get started, the reason why, oh yeah, full disclosure, my bad. We do need the disclosure. The reason why we have to have this disclosure is because what a lot of people don't mention and what they aren't preferencing when we're talking about blockchain technology or Web3 is that this is actually the intersection of technology, finance, and governance. So if we don't address all three components from the very beginning, then we're not talking about Web3 or blockchain or what this technology actually does. So this is money, this is legal, right? This is business. And then we are also getting into governance and how we really navigate in society. So that's why that disclosure is there. Oh, no. Okay. Well, I double checked this slide just so you all know. Just as an overview, we're going to just start with, because I have you all for like 45 minutes. So we're going to get into it. It's depth, it's in depth, but it's worth the information. You need to know it. So we're going to start with the beginning and from the basics. First, what is blockchain? Then we're going to talk about smart contracts. Then we're going to actually get into what it means to put this equity on chain with this new internet. And then afterwards, we're going to get into what the real world current use cases, some trends, and getting into like why our psychological imprint matters as we connect digitally online. So next slide. All right. So everybody, my name's Mariah. My first name is Mariah. My last name's Howard. I am actually from Cleveland, Ohio. That's why I went to the Ohio State University. I have 3 degrees, and none of it, absolutely none of it is in science, none of it is in technology. It's all in science. So my bachelor's is in molecular genetics, and then 2 masters in healthcare administration, and then my MBA. So what happened is I started working for Cleveland Clinic. That's why you see all these logos. These are all the organizations that are really working to build me into the woman that I am, right? Including blockchain. So started at O State, did all the pre-med things, had a great, OHIO, had a great time really just learning about why I needed to make a change. So for the longest, I spent, majority of my life trying to figure out how to make people healthier. And long story short, the real health is actually wealth, and that starts with our pocket. So I quickly took a pivot. I dropped out of medical school at UCLA, and I ended up doubling down on some of my technical skills. So to vent and get through life as a pre-med student, my master's, all those sorts of things, I was programming for fun. And it started with MySpace. So long story short, come to find out, right, all of those skills are actually software engineering. And I had actually been a Python programmer, and I'd been working on machine learning mechanics and everything in between. So I quickly jumped to work with Amazon, AWS. And from there, the boom kind of happened. I think this was around 2017. Yeah, I think it was 2017, 2018, maybe even 2016 if you were super early, because we were talking about Bitcoin back, starting in 08, 09. So anyways, so when we go, I know, right? If you were on MySpace, you were programming and you had software engineering skills, whether you believe it or not. But so long story short, 2017 comes around, 2018, I get a job with Amazon, and I actually end up being on the implementation program to set up the nodes for Ethereum. And that blew my mind. I literally understood then we were in a new age and transition of technology. I was being asked to be the first, if not, one of their first developers. They were creating another language, everything in between. So with that being said, I took a step further into my own personal research and why this company, right? Why? $1 trillion revenue company is entering blockchain and wants me, right? That I shouldn't have had that level of clearance or understanding, but me to set up the performance and the procedures. So in going down the rabbit hole, I learned that it wasn't just about blockchain, and it wasn't even just about dark web. It was more so about sovereignty, and that these developers were creating another internet, and that's where we were going. And that's where I found Developer DAO, where I'm now the head of global innovation and chief of strategy, which is the largest community in the world of blockchain developers. We can talk about it later. You can ask me questions. I definitely have differences and biases as well, but it is in fact the largest community of blockchain developers. And from there, I have just been traveling and making sure that any room I'm in, the information is shared, especially for our people. So that's why I am so honored and excited to be here at Techsgiving and supporting the entire team and AO and anyone in between. So please just make sure you connect with me if you are interested in taking your career, your next steps, or even maybe a contract into blockchain in this industry of emerging technology. So from Developer DAO, I am now a professor as well at the University of Curacao, and I specialize in marketing as well, but really specifically focusing in the School of Finance and Control on blockchain development and integrations for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So that's about me. I tried to do it in less than 5. I hope you got a good feel. All right. Awesome. Can we get the next slide? All right. So let's just get into what is Web3. Long story short, it's another iteration of the internet. That's all it is. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I don't know if you are well versed in technology and systems and IP and HTML and all this other type of stuff. We don't have to worry about that. I just want you to know that this is another iteration of the internet, okay? And with that being said, I want you to understand that we are now regaining ownership. We are literally taking control over our data, which we don't have control over right now, if you understand. And I appreciate all your comments. Yes, Jasmine. Oh my goodness. All right, we got to connect. Make sure you connect with me. But it's the point is that you have to make sure that you're understanding Web3 is less about the money, less about technology, more about the social standards that we are now really shifting. It's a paradigm shift. So to be short and brief, I want you to watch this video. Is there any way we can click on the video to have it played, or maybe not? Let me know. So I have it as a PowerPoint. No, we can't play the video. It's a really important video. I can send a link and I can share the screen. It's super important. We got to watch this video. I should have said something. I didn't know we weren't going to be able to watch my video. I'm going to go to the presentation on my computer, share the screen with you guys, and go from there because you have to see this video. Okay? All righty. All right. I've got my screen up. I'm going to share the screen now. And we're going to get into this video. It's not long, but I want you. Two seconds. Well, give me like more like 30 more seconds. Okay. Present, share screen. Okay. Okie dokie. Oh, and it'll be really disturbing if you guys can't hear it. I guess that's where we might have the hang up. But let me know if you can hear it.
Web 1.
Millions of Americans own a personal computer.
What is internet anyway?
Every business will be on the internet.
Can you hear? Did you guys hear that video? Maybe not. Please send link. Okay, I will send the link. Okay, anyways, I apologize. We're gonna move on. Maybe. I really don't want you to not have this video though. Okay, if you can hear the video, perfect. We're gonna play it. Perfect. Oh man, what just happened? Oh my God. All right, here we go. Video. I gotta be patient. Thank you for your patience. I hope it's just gonna play. Dear God. Okay, it's playing now. Why is it not moving? Alrighty, I'm gonna change my.
Web 1.
Millions of Americans own a personal computer.
What is internet anyway?
Every business will be on the internet in the year 2000.
All you could do was read information. Books, magazines, and newspapers could now be accessed at the click of a button.
It's very hip to be on the internet right now.
But we were just scratching the surface. Web 2 introduced social networking.
When we first launched, we were hoping for 400, 500 people. And now we're at 100,000 people.
Web 2 connected us and turned readers into creators. But in the process, it handed control of the internet over to a few individuals. Introducing Web 3. A version of the internet which will be owned by the people who use and build it, enabled by the blockchain, and made possible by NFTs, art, concert tickets, digital fashion, music, video game collectibles, and even your audience. You can now truly own these things, creating $1 trillion digital economy which is consuming every single industry.
I believe in the next 15 years, nobody writes a book with a publisher. They do it through an NFT infrastructure. There's not a single sporting event that the ticket is not an NFT, because a piece of paper means nothing. But the NFT, that becomes a forever collectible.
Alrighty. So, with that said, got it. All right. With that said, where are we at? Let me know if you watched the video, you heard it, and we're good. Digital fashion. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So, long story short, like we just said, and we just watched an awesome video on, this is just a new iteration of the internet. We've had Web 1, where we really had the digital boom of the internet to begin with. And then we've had Web 2, which was our social media, e-commerce, being able to create a digital profile to begin with. And now we're in Web 3, which is the next iteration of all of that, which means now we get to own the actual data that we're putting on the internet. Now we get to actually be able to have complete and total control and access to what it is that we, or how we navigate with each other, like through the internet of things. So to put it in layman terms, in all fancy terms, long story short, there's not going to be, like before blockchain technology, we had a central body of individualized group of people that had control over what was happening. With blockchain, that doesn't happen anymore. That's what I stand for, decentralization, where now we have a collective group where everyone participates, where everyone matters, and we've even doubled down on security, okay? Then what a lot of and most financial institutions care about as it relates to blockchain technology and Web3 is the transactions, is our financial powers that we now have in order to restructure how we move money and what we do with money and who actually owns and possesses those transactions. So, and also the speed. You'll hear a lot of people talk about the speed. That's why you see it on the slide. And that's where, you know, I'm paid to talk about the speed, but it really has a lot to do with the sovereignty of you actually now being able to own your dollars. But we don't talk about that. We won't get too deep into owning your dollars, but those are the two different benefits. So we're now going from having a specific group of people telling us what to do to now being able to fully control what it is that we want to do and how we want to navigate. We're also able to see absolutely everything that's done on this version of the internet. Before, you can hide things. You can really go through back doors and all sorts of different entryways or viewpoints and perspectives to actually see what's going on. But with blockchain and using this distributed ledger system, it means that anything you put on there is not only visible to anyone who wants to look at it, but it's permanent. And now we don't get to say that the records are wrong. Okay, that's what I love about blockchain. So let's go to the next slide. Maybe not. Do I have control of the slides? Okay, cool. Again, so this is just giving you guys a timeline of the video we just saw in case this was me covering my butt in case we couldn't see the video. But Web 1, originally, right when we happened in the 90s, we had basically our standard protocols of proprietary information. Literally, it was the basics of all basics. When we speak about the internet, we weren't even like the video showed, we weren't even really able to navigate it. It was just inputting information. Now in the 2000s, we've transitioned to a more shared economy because we're allowing people, innovators, influencers, business owners to be able to navigate and literally exactly. And literally be able to have a active piece in our capital market system as using technology. So that was the 2000s. And now in Web3, again, the newest iteration, this means that we've owned it. We get to control when and where, exactly. We get to control when and where this information and this data is stored, who uses it, who sees it. and including our identities. And the most important point and focus of Web3, and I know you're probably tired of hearing about it, but it is the fact that artificial intelligence is a major and large component to what it is and how we navigate and where things are going with Web3. So a lot, if not all, of services within the Web3 emerging markets are AI driven. And this is because the point is to utilize technology to enforce decentralization in us as humans, because this conversation is technically, we're going to get into in a second about the human psyche, because as humans, we really aren't, regardless of race, color, age, we aren't able to outlive our biases. So that is where technology is going to help expedite and really enforce that fairness. So those are why the services are AI driven. And that is your timeline of blockchain technology. Oops. Okay. So let's talk about adoption, because that's important. And I know that you're curious to learn about the money. And long story short, it's not hundreds of millions. It's not billions. It's not hundreds of billions. This is $1 trillion industry and growing. And they're anticipating it to be even more. This is just what they're telling the public, right? So for instance, as a global leader, you know, USA is at the forefront. And right now we're invested roughly about $4 billion into the industry alone. And we're watching our global entities and counterparts almost really, I guess this is another version of a competitive market. Can't say what I was going to say, where the other countries are actually making strategic developments throughout their governments and their finance ministries to get approval to now navigate and utilize this technology. So I want you to understand the difference. It's not just that these are random companies and Fortune 500s that are interested in what's happening with Web3 and blockchain technology, but literal countries, governments. I can't explain any further that this is another iteration of the internet. And that is why you want to comprehensively understand where you fit in and how you can help. So this slide is just to show you that it is global. This is not little money, and they aren't joking around with what they're willing to invest. All right, so everyone always asks me, anywhere I go, anywhere in the world, they're like, okay, Mariah, since you're such a Web3 enthusiast, let's just jump. Let's just go. It's better. That we shouldn't have done anything else. And I have to tell them no immediately. Web3 is not necessarily better than what we have now unless we use it effectively and actually implement the security measures and everything that matters to protect the people that the technology was created for. And right now, we have absolutely nothing. And I do mean that. But this is not a political speech or talk or presentation. I want to make sure that we continue on with the technology. But long story short, yes, Web3 is the answer as long as we have literal, I was trying to put the word together, literal and legal policies and procedures to protect us as we navigate, especially Black and brown folks. So yes, Web3, but in a second. Wow. You guys, I want you to know this presentation was absolutely beautiful and stellar. I know you guys saw my version on Canva. I don't know what's happening here. But now let's fuse innovation with empathy, because the point is, and what I really want to hone in on is that right now we're talking about a new version of internet, but it's the same version of internet. Now we're just going to have to be more cautious of what it means to interact with each other. And in you being more cautious and interacting with one another, that means that you absolutely have to have emotional intelligence. You have to have empathy, and you have to literally be patient. So this is where a paradigm shift in societal understanding and beliefs is what's happening when we are all asked to use this new version of the internet with consciousness, okay? With consciousness. I'm not speaking on behalf or speaking to anyone that uses technology mindlessly. I'm speaking to a conscious technologist right now who actually cares and understands what it means to connect virtually and then make that connection virtually into whatever physical capacity it is. And that requires a level of understanding and consciousness. So here we go. Wow. All right. So I might really just screen share, y'all. I'm going to screen share. I'm too picky about how I like things. So we're going to screen share. And okay. All right. We're going to screen share. Because I don't like that. And here is the screen. So now we're going to get into blockchain and the actual technology, because that's another piece and major component that I know for a fact people do not share with the general public, our friends, or anyone that actually matters when we're talking about blockchain technology. So long story short, blockchain is a open, and I don't want to say decentralized to throw you off. Just think of it as an open ledger system, like an Excel sheet even, that's just going to literally and perpetually log transactions. And with that being said, the transactions are logged perpetually and indefinitely because they can't be reversed using a block system, okay? And I am really doing my damnedest to make sure that I don't use technical jargon terms. So do let me know if I am not being clear. But long story short, it is just a ledger system to track what's going on. So now I want you all to watch this video with me so you can actually see the literal workings and mechanics of blockchain technology and how it works and what we mean. So it's taking your original code, putting it on another system, if you will, a ledger system that now allows you to do everything that you've done previously on the Web 2 and our standard internet, but now to use it on and in this realm, so it cannot be altered, changed, or manipulated. So it's a more serious internet, if you will. And now I just want you to see the actual breakdown of how the code is written and what it means to create a block, and why things take long and why we have these weights and things like that. So here's a quick video. We won't watch the whole thing. We'll watch at least 2 to 3 minutes of it. But it's a video so that you can actually see and understand what the ledger system is, what a hash is, why we have nodes, those basic mechanics of blockchain and cryptography. You walk away with a general understanding that, okay, the reason why this internet is different is because of how it works and why it's more secure. So here we go.
The key pieces of what a blockchain is in a visual way. But before we get started, we need to take a look at this thing that we call a SHA-256 hash. Okay, and a hash, this is one of them right here. A hash looks like a bunch of random numbers. And essentially what it is, it's a fingerprint of some digital data. And it just so happens it's the fingerprint of whatever I type in this box. So if I type my name, Anders, into this box, you see that the hash has changed. As a matter of fact, it changed every time I typed a letter, right? So I'm going to go back to, so it says Anders. Okay, so this is the hash of the name Anders, all lowercase. It starts with 19EA, right? Okay, so if I delete that and I go again, type Anders again, you can see it starts with 19EA, the same exact hash. In that sense, it's a digital fingerprint of this data. Whatever data is here, every time you type exactly the same data, you get exactly the same hash. And I can type anything I want. So you can have nothing like this, you know, E3B0, that's the hash of nothing. Or you could type tons and tons of stuff. As a matter of fact, you could put like the Library of Congress in here and you would get a hash. And the interesting thing about it is, regardless of if there's a tiny amount of information, no information, or the entire Library of Congress, you're always going to get a hash that is this long, this many characters. You're not going to be able to pre-guess what this is. You kind of have to put the Library of Congress in here to figure out what the hash is. But you'll always get exactly the same hash regardless of how many times you put exactly the same information in. So what I'm going to do is extend this idea of a hash into something that we're going to call a block. All right, so let's take a look at a block. So this is a block, and it's exactly like the hash. It's just that that data section I've broken out now into 3 sections. One called block. This is just some kind of a number. This is block number 1. A nonce, which is just yet another number. We'll go into what that is in a second. And then just some more data, just very similarly to the way that we had it before. However, the hash of this, which includes all of this information up here, is down here, and it begins with 4 zeros. You see that? Okay, that's a relatively unusual hash. You know, most of them are not really going to start with 4 zeros like that, but this one happens to. And because it does, totally arbitrarily, I'm going to say that this block is signed. Okay? So what would happen if I were to change any one piece of this information? Let's say if I were to type something here, right? The hash is going to change. And what's the chance of if I type letters, this hash is going to start with 4 zeros? Pretty low. It's probably not, right? So let's see what happens when I do that. I'm just going to say, hi. Oh, look at that, right? This hash does not start with 4 zeros. And so the big background here has turned red. So now you know that this block with this information in it is not a valid or a signed block. Okay, and that's where this nonce comes in. This nonce is just a number that you can set to try to find a number that fits so that this hash starts with 4 zeros again. All right, so how do we do that? Well, let's start with 1. Does that start with, no, it's 3, 2, 7, that's not 1. So let's try 2, FF, no, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the idea. Like I could sit here, there's one that starts with a 0. I could sit here all day typing these numbers and trying to figure out one that actually is going to hash out to something that starts with 4 zeros. Going to take a long time. So here I have my little mine button. I'm sure you've been wondering what happens if I press that. So what's going to happen when I press this mine button is it's going to run through all the numbers from 1 all the way up to try to find one where the hash starts with 4 zeros. And this process is called mining. Let's do it right now. So now it's checking all of the numbers from 1 all the way up. Whoop, there. Now it's stopped at 59,396. And that one just happens to hash out to something that starts with 4 zeros. And it satisfies my little definition of what a signed block is.
All right. So, is there a link to the video about Web3? Yes, I can absolutely share a link to the video. So that video demonstration, shout out to Baddies. Awesome. So that video demonstration was really just my way of trying to get you to, if you were a programmer, a software engineer or not, I just wanted you to understand how the technical mechanics of Web3 and the blockchain technology, cryptography, if you will, actually works. So for instance, absolutely, I will absolutely share all and every link, and I will absolutely ask and make sure the Techsgiving team can share it as well. But long story short, it is just showing you that these transactions, the input, the data that we're doing, like just imagine if you had built a website, right? That code, one would be almost, right, impossible to duplicate or forge. And then 2, it is allowing you to see, or I wanted you to see, that it's really just cryptography. It's a new version of our internet that puts what it is that we want to do onto an open ledger system that encrypts it. And we'll double down on security as well. So we can't, you know, there are quantum computers that can absolutely take what we're building on blockchain out. But the point is so that you can see how the data is encrypted, how you're able to protect yourself in the actual literal mechanics of blockchain technology, cryptography, and why this is better than just maybe putting your social security on the internet and things of that nature, right? So I can absolutely not give you a history lesson on encryption, but we can go down the rabbit hole maybe in a Q&A. So with all that being said, blockchain technology, I want you to see the nodes. I want you to see basically how the code is set up. And then there are just two components to it. So there's proof of work and then there's proof of stake. And proof of work just means that the input and the data actually gets on the ledger system and on chain based on like an individual person or another computer that is actually validating to double check. The proof of stake is a little bit different because now they're basing it on your cryptocurrency or your money or your investments and that sort of thing. And as long as you are willing to make those incentives or stake, what do we use in the real world that is not the word stake? Why am I missing the word? When you put your money aside and you vest. So vesting. So if you're willing to vest some of your cryptocurrency, which is what the blockchain is essentially navigating and made off of, if you're willing to invest that can also be counted to put your work on chain and so on and so forth. So buy your way. So it's a pay to play, or it's, do the work and actually be the programmer that validates what is going on chain. I'm going to go to the next slide and not worry about those questions just yet. And I'm actually going to share my screen again because I'm really particular about how this is looking and it's not showing up how I want it to show up. So we're going to go back to sharing. So how does Web3 benefit businesses? We just talked about a lot. We're talking about this new internet. We're saying that now what you put on there can be permanent. And we're saying that you also essentially can't change it. So how does that really help us? How does that help businesses? How does that help you and me? First of all, equity and fairness. With this technology and Web3 and blockchain, we're literally able to, and I'll let you read this, but I'm just going to cut to the chase. We're literally able to program our contracts into code and have them automated and executionable so that you don't get to be lowballed or cut out of a deal or having someone, there's just so many inequities and infalities that happen in business, specifically for Black and brown people since the beginning of times. Actually, not since the beginning of times, for just for a little bit of time. This internet and these technologies allow us to bypass a lot of systematically sustained inequities. So that's why it's important. Second, trust and security. So with using this technology, as you saw, not only are we being asked or almost forced to, I guess it's not forcing someone to trust you, but not only are you being asked to actually have to verify what it is you're doing on chain, there's also a component that goes back and helps verify what it is you're doing. I just wanted to double check something, make sure you guys were with me. Okay, so it also you have someone else. So there's a 2-point system, and that's why when we get into quantum mechanics and cybersecurity, the most important layer of Web3 and blockchain is security. So now that we have these transactions or this data that can't be changed, you can't alter it, so on and so forth, we're also able to better protect ourselves and our customers. And then last, but it's not least, is really about identity protection and transparency. So first of all, now we not only have this open ledger system, but we know exactly, you can be anonymous, but we know exactly where that data came from, if you will. So maybe not necessarily your exact identity, but we actually know where the data came from. And we're actually having full transparency because we can at all times in any circumstance, as long as we have internet, are able to see what is happening visually with actual representation. So now it's almost as if ethical business practices are standard, right? If we're building a new internet and a new business model with better technologies that force you to be accountable, force you to be equitable, force you to be anything in between, this is the most important piece and component of a digital age for specifically minorities and Black and brown people to get ahead of and continue to dominate. That is why Web3 is important for us to take advantage of. It is transparent, secure, and inclusive, controlled by decentralized systems. As many people we can get in here, the better. All right. Yes, peer-to-peer contracts, exactly. I'm going to go back to my next slide. So now we're going to get into what you kind of have already mentioned. And it's really my favorite piece and component of Web3 and blockchain and this internet, because we're actually able to see how it matters in our daily lives. So for instance, I've already talked about it, but we're having an entire paradigm or psychological shift, if you will. We're going to now be asked to consider the internet from a perspective of, hey, I'm not just uploading this, I'm going to be sharing my digital identity with you. We may be connecting wallets. You're going to have access to see certain things that I haven't previously, given access to, but it's safe and secure. So now we're going to be asked and have to literally think differently as we navigate, as we transact, and as we even contract. Which brings me to my second point, which I see that Prince Ao has mentioned, which is peer-to-peer transactions. And long story short, you can't be, I almost cussed, you can't be a jerk and use this internet and not understand that not only will it be seen and read and felt, but it will be permanent. And now your community will also be able to see and keep record of what some of those permanent decisions that you made using this internet. So long story short, Web3 is literally connecting you to who you want to connect to. So that's the also biggest to it all. You're not having to use these intermediaries. So if we wanted to use Hopin, right, for instance, on Web3, there is an application, but they didn't pay me, so I'm not saying it. If we wanted to use a version of Hopin on Web3, it would look a little different, because at that point, we wouldn't necessarily be signing in using Google or whatnot. We would probably be signing in using a wallet that now connects you to have direct access to send things to that wallet, to transact, to talk, communicate, that sort of thing. So it's opening access and then giving you direct and immediate access to that person. Now some people are worried, some people are concerned, but that's where we also have levels of security and protocol that actually are making sure that this is probably the most efficient and essential way to deal with each other. We should be working peer-to-peer, and we should be connecting with one another directly, just as we are through internet and everything else, but actually having complete control, ownership of it. So that is why you can no longer just, be a good person, because now there's record of it. And then last but not least, again, is business evolution and transparency, which was what we talked about on the last slide before getting to, daily human lives. But the point being is that now we can actually automate our contracts. So let's say we have letters of intent, MOUs, you name it, right? And this is what people aren't talking about and sharing with blockchain and Web3. And there are even companies that are already creating the tools and technology to do exactly this. But your MOUs, your letters of intent, your NDAs even, right? Imagine that being completely automated through technology and permanent. So if and when there ever were a situation or circumstance you did have to go to court, right, or anything of those natures, this is probably, or it will be, and if it isn't already used, the most accurate piece of technology and really development for us to scale in business. And I'll let you think about that, because AO did an entire presentation on scaling. So just imagine what life looks like scaling your business using this level of technology. And believe me, our counterparts and partners are already doing it.
I was like,
so this is one of my peers, colleagues, girlfriends, business partners, you name it. I love Latasha. She is a musician and an artist. And I brought her to your attention, and I wanted her to be on this slide, and I wanted you to know her because I wanted you to have a firsthand recognition and exposure to a Black woman that is an artist and that is artistic and incredibly evolved, that is navigating Web3 and not just dominating, but she's also economically dominated. She is generating capital for herself. She is actually able to maintain ownership of her royalties and the rights of her music. That's just amongst many other things. But the point being is that I want you to see a real world use case of a Black woman who is using this level of technology and this blockchain technology to benefit and grow, not just her, but her community. So here's a video about two of the companies that she's working with, one being Zora, which is a software technological software suite system, excuse me, tongue-tied. And their focus, again, is just, someone mentioned Ethereum. They aren't necessarily focused on creating a currency, but they are focused on providing a software for an open internet and decentralized internet. So Zora is another company, blockchain organization within Web3. And then NFT Now is a partner of just about anything related to our corporate scaled and strategic partnerships within Web3. So NFT Now has been a part of a lot of really implementation with Web3 and blockchain throughout fashion and music. So I highly recommend you look into NFT Now and Zora. And let's watch this video from Latasha to learn about her experience, why she's in Web3, and what is actually going on.
A struggling artist trying to figure. I was like a struggling artist trying to figure this thing out. I really think that Web3 has completely shifted my existence. Got into Zora in February 2021 and then did my first piece. And that was one of the first music videos to hit blockchain. The label that I was working with didn't give us any income for the music video. So it was all out of pocket. And then a year later, we find Web3 and we're like, all right, let's put this music video up. All the times that someone told me that my sweat equity didn't equate, this was like showing me that it did and I deserved it. And we made $50,000 off of a music video that was living on YouTube for a year. I made what a record deal would have given me in a summer without giving away my copyright or masters, just through Web3 and NFTs.
And that is a little snippet from Latasha. I'm going to move on because I don't know how much time I've got. Well, I do, and I think I'm coming close. So, long story short, Web3 absolutely can and will and is literally changing everything. If you ask me, there just needs to be a comprehensive information campaign for businesses and global citizens, and that is why I'm here. I'm serious. I'm very much aware that this technology is exactly that, the revolution that we've been waiting on. But if we don't have access to the information, if we don't know how to leverage the information, and we aren't confident and supported enough to make the transition, then we do miss out. So that is absolutely how I feel. And I wanted you to see firsthand some of the organizations and Fortune 500 and institutions, the global conglomerates that are actually in this space as of 2023 in December. This information is from a company called Black Data. I'm also a partner in great cahoots with. So if you did want to learn more, get more information, maybe even intern, just let me know. We're always, like I said, this is a growing, emerging industry. And if you are interested in understanding, please come and join us and let's go. But long story short, 26 companies are under, so basically, I want you to understand this chart too. So this chart is basically showing you the actual blockchain or Web3 institutions at the bottom, that are building the entire software or languages or just basically the infrastructure that's needed for these companies to then integrate what it is that they do as a standard business model and practice.
Hey, Mariah, I'm so sorry to interrupt. We have to.
Gotta go?
We gotta go. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just wanted to give a last point.
I got you. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I love your presentation. I feel like I understand blockchain way more now. And I also am going to add MySpace to my resume after this, so I can, maybe pivot into that joint. But we definitely want to hear more about blockchain from you. And if you have any more that you could just impart on the people, just send them some more information in the chat. And I might need to, have another master class and learn a little bit more about this as well. But we want to give people time for just to ask you one question. So I'm going to ask one question from the chat, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward. Thank you so much. You did an amazing job. All right, let's see.
This was so much fun. I'm honored. I'm grateful. Thank you so much, Kofi.
You're welcome, Mariah. You killed it. Like, you really killed it. I've been really trying to wrap my head around blockchain for the longest, and I feel like, all right, I feel like I'm fine here. They
do that on purpose.
They do, because they don't want to see us win. And where's the DJ Khaled? Let me see anyone. I feel like I saw a question earlier on. Did you answer how much space capacity does a hash or a blockchain have?
I saw that question, and you're absolutely right to assume that there's unlimited space, and that is true. So we aren't worried about space for where we're working. It depended on the software. So for instance, with Bitcoin, there is limited space. There's limited storage. A lot of people are upset that we're building on Bitcoin outside of financial practices, because they believe that that was what it was only typically supposed to be used for. And then there are other infrastructures that are infinitely built to have an unlimited amount of space, because they believe that that was what blockchain was supposed to be used for, and not necessarily a financial instrument. So you just have to choose which infrastructure system that you want to build on. And just off, freehand, Bitcoin specifically absolutely does have limited storage, but there are others, right? For instance, like Ethereum, Cosmos, they're modular chains. I'm getting super technical, but there are other chains and infrastructures that have unlimited. So it just depends on what you want to use it for. So, and even to go a little bit further, talking about storage and its its source, our government is interested in Bitcoin because of its limited storage, because of the leverage you're able to use in investment instruments for it, and not so much anything else, right? Because they don't see the financial benefit unless they've got a globalized industry. So storage does matter. It just depends on the technical infrastructure and the use case for the technology that you're using it for.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that answer. So lastly, they're asking if you're going to be at the actual summit.
I'm in DC. Yes.
You heard it live. She's going to be here at the summit. Please, if don't approach her like a celebrity. She's a celebrity, but be respectful. Y'all are very excited we're very excited to have you here. They're very excited to speak to you in person and meet you. Thank you so much for imparting this knowledge on us, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, y'all. So thank you, Mariah. You are a designer. How do you connect to our office? We'll make sure to have somebody from Techsgiving give you a link for the office hours. If somebody from Techsgiving could give Edwin Toussaint the link to the office hours. Thank you so much, Mariah. Now, she told us about blockchain, which is an innovation is making big headway in the world, and